We're hopeful of live right now. I'm not 100% sure the conditions being faced. So we do hope you can join. Oh, are you hearing us? I've got it on my side now, Joseph. I think that's a good side. But we are. There we go. Unsure. Technology hates us tonight, but we're back racing. Lap 3. David Band still leads.
Certainly does. David Band held on from pole position, of course. We weren't able to see the end of qualifying, but David Band did take that pole position, as I mentioned, to Oscar Furuheim in the YouTube chat even. And in fact, the top 6 of held position is only Lawrence, who's taken the 8th place, or 7th place even, from 8th place in qualifying off Finley. Nico Castronova and Max van der Geest are staying in position. Vanna Spinoda has gained 1, as has Chris RBL. Schumacher and Venom have gained 3. Monza's lost 5, and Kevin Zannenberg has lost 3, and that's going to be the start of your qualifying session, represented in the race. And David Band's 2 tenths ahead of Tony Reisch as they head around towards the start-finish straight, towards the first corner. And we'll see who's going to lead out of this one. DRS, of course, open. It is lap 3. It's not like we're starting from lap 1. But David Bands is 2 tenths ahead. But Tony Reisch is not able to close that gap. The top 3 have been able to eke one over the rest of the field. And yeah, it's a pretty decent start indeed. As we head on to lap number 4, everybody remains in that DRS.
Indeed. Let's have a quick look at positional changes. Lawrence has managed to get past Finley up that 1 place, so those 2 have swapped. Vanna Spinoda, Chris RBL have gained. Monza and Kevin Zannenberg have dropped massively. Schumacher and Venom there as well. Most of the tyres are medium. There are 3 that aren't on medium. Hopefully the quietness has gone. I say quietness has gone. The quietness is not longer quiet, and we are back to normal sort of sounds here as we do continue watching David Bands and Tony Reisch battle away through all this one as we go through. David Band leads from Tony Reisch and Silo. Dirk, does Dirk need to win this race?
Not necessarily at this point in the season. I mean, of course, he's got that points lead over everybody else. So it's just about consistency, I think, to the end. But of course, he wouldn't mind a victory. I really don't think he would mind a victory. As now Tony Reisch is on the inside line of our race leader, David Bands, and they will do battle out of the final corner and heading down towards the main straight. They remain locked in arms, and Silo looking to get in there as well. They'll go down to the final corner, and the first corner 3 wide almost. Silo sending it to the inside. It will be 3 wide. Tony Reisch holds the middle line, and for the first time in a while, the middle line has prevailed. Tony Reisch takes the lead. Silo moves up to 2nd place, and 2 positions in the space of 1 corner for David Bands.
That is so unfortunate for David Bands there, but I just don't think there was anything else they could have done in that situation. Caught napping maybe, but Tony Reisch leads this Grand Prix from Silo, and they're all squabbling away behind. Volokongan trying to get in on the action on the Alpine as well. Looks to the inside, does get the inside for the big left-hander of turn 13, and that could be a 3rd position lost in the space of, well, nearly a sector in this Grand Prix. That's insane.
Would we call it commentator's curse? Because you did mention that David Bands had held the lead, but I don't know if it was enough of a curse to put on him. But yeah, he's dropped down to outside of the podium, and it's one of those things. You can have very, very quick qualifying pace. If your race pace is not up to scratch, then you're not going to win a race. That is just a fact, and I think that's what he's been suffering from here today, where whilst his qualifying pace was very good and his 1-lap pace is very good, over the course of a race it will drop off, and it has started to drop off for himself, as that's going to be Dirk on the inside of our former race leader, and our championship leader is going to make his way through into 4th pretty nice and cleanly as we head onto lap number 6 of this one. And we will continue to watch on with some of the fighting. The fighting's been very good so far, and well, they've been taking nice and clean moves, and the majority of them down the inside into the first corner, and we've seen another couple of attempted moves down there. Quantum through and Kevin Zannenberg, that's the first gap with DRS, typical of Monza, off the back of this field as well. And Monza, I believe, is going to call his race to a close. Indeed he is. Lap 6, very early to call his race to quits, and that is unfortunate to be seeing him out as early as lap 6. But yeah, it is what it is Finley fighting away with Nico Castronovo, and Nico Castronovo, in fact, must have made an error somewhere, because he's dropped a couple of positions and he's dropped a whole bucket load of time.
Not ideal, and I did see Ziawadi come off I want to say kind of turn 8, 9-ish, that sort of area, and coming back on. There's no front wing damage to the Red Bull at the moment, but it's got Max van der Gies all over the back of them on the hard compound of tyre, absolutely causing a world of pain for the medium runner of Ziawadi at the moment. That could come back to cost them. Max van der Gies, though, that's an interesting one, and one of the highest drivers on the hard compound of tyres, but Monza leaving so early just to go back on that as well. That's unfortunate, because you would think at this stage that with so many laps to go, as Ziawadi and Max van der Gies coming side by side as well, and there goes Ziawadi down another position. Not ideal for the Red.
No, certainly not ideal at all for Zviade, and he'll try and recover from it, of course, but it's not an ideal moment from him as he drops down 4 places into 10th place, and he's the biggest loser, as is David Bands. They're joint with 4 positions lost across the course of the start of this race. Everybody now, I mentioned earlier on how nobody had switched. Now everybody has made the decision to switch positions, and only Finley and Venom have held position off of the start line and remain in that same position now. Lap number 7 is what we are seeing, and if we have a look at the tyre information, everybody is on a set of the mediums, apart from Max van der Geest, Quantum, and Kevin Zannenberg, who are all on a set of the hards. I don't think we'll be seeing any softs. They're just not a sustainable race tyre around Saudi Arabia, and with the temperature of the circuit, it's very, very much not ideal to be on a set of the softest compound of tyres, because they'll heat up just a bit too much, and they'll get a little bit too over the top. They won't be an ideal race tyre, and they'll only last just a couple of laps, which is, of course, not what you want in a race session. Qualifying, absolutely fine, but as with the case for the majority of this game cycle, the soft compound tyres have been pretty much rendered useless.
It is a shame to see that, but we've got 3 Shizou drivers in the top 4 there, as into the pits is Chris RBL on those mediums. It's a very early pit stop, I think, from that stage. But with Volokongen in 3rd place, are we seeing a return from the Volokongen that won the championship a few seasons ago? Like that sort of pace?
I know you're a big Volokongen glazer, but I think that there's just some circuits where Vola is quick. I think there's some circuits where Vola is slow, and we just happened to see Volokongen on a season of circuits that he did particularly well at, and of course it was the end of the game cycle, so he's had plenty of opportunity to be on it, so maybe Volokongen just needs a bit more time to bed into F1 25 before he makes his championship challenge, but of course it's promising signs from the McLaren, of course, and I don't want to disparage his championship or his achievements or his ability as a driver at all. But that just seems to be what I'm doing unintentionally. But yeah, I'd be happy if he gets a podium, because you never want to see somebody the quality of Volokongen, having just said that he got a bunch of circuits that he's good at. You never want to see somebody the likes of Volokongen dropping down and not quite being up at the level that he once was. But it's ultimately, if he is fighting for race wins, that is a good thing for Console Tier 1, and he's currently 3rd place, so he's not too far off it, as we'll be seeing more drivers into the pit lane on lap number 7, I think, or lap number 9 even. I think the main crux of the problem with these tyres, and with the strategy around the circuit, is the mediums feel absolutely horrible, the hards feel great and last a long time, so it's just about trying to stretch to a point where you can realistically make the switch, and I think Chris RBL has sort of started a domino effect here.
Yeah, and that could be crucial for all this. I'm going to go have a look on board with Chris RBL to see how many places they gain. I don't think they've gained too many. Maybe just ahead of Nico Castronova. Look how close they are as they come out of the pits. Nico could, he may have been able to put a piece of paper in between the front wing and the diffuser, but it was very, very close between the two of them at the exit of turn 2 into turn 3. But Chris RBL gets the move done and is behind Lawrence then as they chase through with David Bands, who's lost the DRS to Volokongan and all this. That could be crucial when all things are said and done. But Tony Reich and Shizu Cedar Igniter Dirk in second place, just sticking it out at the moment. Will Dirk try and push to get inside that DRS? I don't know if surely they'll pit this lap though.
You'd think so. They lose that DRS, and that could be very, very crucial. Of course, there is 2 DRS zones. I wouldn't call them straights, but it's 2 DRS zones. And we've just seen Max van der Geest make an overtake in one of them, Finley, dropping down a position. But yeah, David Bands, I think, is suffered from the symptoms of being too tentative into the pit lane, being too scared to get a 10-second time penalty. And that's what happens when you're not used to fighting at the top, when you're not experienced. You can't take those gambles, or you don't feel as though you can take those gambles. And David Bands there, it's a lesson for him at the very least. So it's a positive that he can take out of this experience, even if it's rooted in a negative. But more drivers into the pit lane on this lap. And David Bands is going to get through on Tony Reich, who's gone one extra lap. And the overcut, again, proves to be the weakest strategy one more time, as the undercut is, I mean, ever present and ever dominant, really, in pretty much any race circuit.
We've got a couple of medium runners still out there as well. Dirk, championship leader, being one of them. Finley, Knight and Luca all deciding that they want to stay on the hards that little bit longer, which just seems... the mediums that a little bit longer, as typical gets dispatched by David Bands there. Typical also on the set of mediums. They've really dropped out the order, and the back end is massively stepping out. And there goes Tony Reich as they come through this little windy part with DRS, and through goes Lawrence as well, making the move. I think they had to make the move, or otherwise they would have been stuck behind Typical through a slower part of the track.
Which is not what you want to do. Of course, the overtaking opportunities around here are rare, as I mentioned earlier on, and well, it could be that you only really get one chance to overtake later on, and if you get caught behind a slower car, then that can really hamper your chances as AMS Knight into the pit lane. Dirk's continuing. Dirk is going for an incredibly long stint here in that V-carb, and it's a very interesting strategy. I'd be interested to see whether it pays off for him, simply because it's unorthodox, especially for somebody who doesn't necessarily need to take that gamble.
Yeah, it's very, very odd from Dirk, as we saw Typical and Chris Arbia. Oh, actually, Nico Castronova getting very close into turn 1, and Typical going longer as well. This is very, very strange for some of these drivers. Kevin Zinnerberg and Quantum, though, swapping away. We've not had much word on Quantum this race and the qualifying before that, because of obviously partly because of the issues we've had, but also Quantum just doesn't seem like they've been their usual this season's self so far.
No, certainly it does, and not so far. And well, it's weird because this season it's been pretty much a blank slate for a lot of the drivers, and that means that we've had the opportunity to see the likes of Nico Castronova fighting up the top. We've seen the likes of course, David Bands fighting up the top in a couple of races. But yeah, it's going to be interesting as Volokongan threw on Luca. Interesting to see how this spreads out throughout the course of a couple of seasons, not just this one, as Dirk comes into the pit lane, because we've got new drivers who are staking their claim for a position in Console Tier 1, and of course we've just seen Dirk, who of course has hung around for a while. So you've got fresh faces, fresh new rookies, against old heads, old contenders, the likes of Tony Reich and Volokongan and all of these sorts of drivers, Quantum as well being another one. So it's a very interesting dynamic to watch, I think, at this point in time, and it will be interesting. I'll certainly keep an eye, even if I'm not in the commentary box, over the next couple of seasons about the progress of some of these drivers. Maybe some of them do switch over to PC as well. Maybe they make that step up or the step sideways, as it were, and they could become household names within the next few years. I think Max van der Geest is one that I've got my eye on, certainly, because I remember commentating on him just last game, a couple of tiers down, and now he's made his way all the way to Console Tier 1. So the progress that he's made is good, and he's only set to continue with Venturi backing, and so will be interesting to watch his progress as, of course, he continues. And I know that Venturi have encouraged a couple of drivers to make the switch over to PC over the course of this game cycle. And Max van der Geest could be the next one who establishes himself as David Ban's 3-second time penalty. He tried to keep up with the pace that he had earlier on in the race, but as everybody else just finds those extra tenths of a second, David Bans loses 3 whole seconds.
It's not ideal at all. And Dirk's come out behind Fanna Spinoda in all this. So that's going to be one to watch. See how they get through. And saying that, he's already dispatched, as I think we're going to see Tony Riesch go that little bit quicker as well. And maybe to dispatch of Schumacher at the same time. Is this going to be Dirk's time? Goes defensive as Schumacher. Dirk around the outside, and Fanna Spinoda looks like they're going to follow through. Not on this occasion. And Venom picking up a 10-second. That's kind of a given, isn't it? When you get a 10-second penalty, you know someone's going to just pull the plug and go, that's it.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because we don't, of course, want anybody to retire from the session, let alone of their own volition. And it always feels weird to me retiring. It's why I've got a lot of respect for Typical, who's found himself at the back of the field on a number of occasions this season, don't get me wrong. And he's managed to keep going. Today, for example, 12.7 seconds off the back of his teammate Luca. He's not retiring. He's not giving up. He's just keeping going. It's at the end of the day, it's all about fun. And whilst, of course, I know you may not enjoy running around at the back of the field, it's about fun. It's about the experience as well. Typical may not find himself in console tier 1 again. Or he may well do, of course. We never know with the improvements. But the way that he's driving right now, he won't find himself in console tier 1 next season. And so it's just about picking up that experience, running with drivers, going, how on earth are you that quick around that corner? And then, you know, problem solving, improving, and then coming back bigger and better next season. And that's why I don't mind drivers just continuing on, even if they're having a hopeless race, as it were. And I actually encourage it as Quantum gets through on Kevin Zunneberg for 2nd place. And that will be, of course, these two and these top 3, in fact, out of sync with the rest of the field.
Yeah, it's interesting because they've got the rest of the field back up into them now. So Quantum and Kevin Zunneberg have got Silo, who's already pitted. But we know how this track changes and how the tyres die. We've already seen Dirk. Dirk is about 10 seconds, maybe 12 seconds, or in that sort of ballpark figure behind Max van der Geest at the moment. As we see Silo trying to get through Kevin Zunneberg. That's going to be interesting. That's a very good move from Silo to get it done as they come through turn 13. Now, obviously, they've still got Quantum ahead, but Kevin Zunneberg and Quantum could cause a little bit of a roadblock for Volokongan and Tony Riesch behind, which could allow Silo to pull away a little bit. Saying that, there goes Volokongan through on Kevin Zunneberg, and that's position gained, and Tony has a bit of problem through it.
Yes, it's not necessarily ideal for those drivers. Tony Riesch going for the move. Can he get squeezed through? Just about. He can, but Kevin Zunneberg keeping a wheel and keeping that Haas car within fighting range. And I think there's a bit of rubbing between the two as they head down towards what will be the next braking zone. A bunch of medium speed corners before the slower speed corner, of course, on the brakes. That will be Tony Riesch, who has the advantage and has the position. He's finally made his way through on Zunneberg, but has lost a decent chunk of time as that side-by-side Quantum and Silo for that 2nd place. And for Max van der Geest's hopes, he'll be hoping that Quantum fights, but instead he drops 2 positions. So the Venturi driver, who's currently 1.9 up on the field, I can't see that lasting very long.
Well, I don't even think it's going to be the end of the lap that Silo and Volokongan will catch Dirk. Let's have a look at the position to the lead. Dirk is 8.4 seconds behind the lead car. So he's... I'm trying to do quick maths and it's not working. About 7 seconds behind Silo when they were pretty much right with them before the pit stops. But crucially, Dirk is going to have 3 lap better tyres.
Yeah, he certainly is, and those 3 laps could be absolutely vital come the end of this race with how very important each of those laps are. As Van der Geest has had problems, and well, is that a puncture? That is indeed a puncture on the right rear of that of that V-Cub. So I said those tyres last for ages. Well, we've seen them last 15 laps. That might cast a little bit of nerves, or a couple of nerves even, into the hearts of a couple of those running on the mediums, on the hard compound tyres at the moment. Of course, Van der Geest, he's crashed in sector 1 or just crossing over to sector 2. So he's got a whole lap to do, and I don't imagine he'll be making it to the end.
That is gutting for them. But Dirk's decision to stay out longer maybe vindicated there, and into the pits finally for Quantum. Quantum's seen that happen, gone, nah, I don't want a back tyre exploding like that, into the pits, and will be happy to get those hard compounder tyres off the car. My goodness me. Back to the leaders then. Silo, Volokongan and Tony. It was these top... Well, no. It was these top three, wasn't it? But not in this order.
Yeah, and these top four, if you include David Bands in it, but of course he's got a penalty, so that may well work well against him coming into the end of this race session. 16 of 25 now, and David Bands holds himself in fourth as Max van der Geest, I believe, has had another puncture and he's really, really struggling now, and that will cause a lot of nerves in a lot of the drivers on those hard compound tyres. They're expecting to go 10 laps more. Max van der Geest's tyres have blown after 14, and so everyone, I think, is going to have to be forced onto the two-stop.
We say that, but will Dirk manage that brilliantly? Could end up being a standout winner in this one just by taking the risk of going longer. We'll have to wait and see. Lap 16 of 25. It's going to be tight no matter what through all this, as we continue to watch the top three coming in and through and into the pits. Finally, I think Max will go. It's looking stricken for that RB into the pits now, a lap down, unfortunately for them. And there we go, retiring from the session, and AMS Knight and Schumacher swapping places as well, as Knight trying to get a few points to their name on this one, and currently doing a good job about it.
Yeah, it certainly is at the moment. AMS Knight reserving today, and he was very excited for the opportunity, currently running in 9th place. But penalties, of course, against his name, and the regular Tier 2 driver will be hoping that it's not going to affect him too badly. Again, it's one of those drivers who makes a step up, does a decent job, may well be in contention for next season. Or maybe even later on in this season. We saw that with the likes of Schumacher last season, where they filled in at points and raced at points, as that's another 3-second time penalty, this time to Fana Spinoda's time. But yeah, lap 17 of 25 is what we have at the moment. And AMS Knight as well has fresher tyres than the majority of the drivers in and around his pack, so expect him to be naturally having that advantage.
Yeah, let's see what will happen to that one. It's one definitely to watch for Knight. Dirk is now only 2 seconds behind Lawrence in P5 and catching slowly. Lawrence looks like, though, they could make a move on David Bands as they head towards turn 27. It's going to be an interesting pull out of there as Knight gets past Chris RBL there, making the tyres, or making good use of those fresher tyres. And here it comes. Lawrence, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the DRS from David Bands is keeping Lawrence behind for the time being.
Yeah, just about keeping Lawrence at bay, and with no pressure coming from behind on Lawrence, you would imagine that it will be Lawrence continuing the pressure on David Bands for at least a while. But of course, lap 18 of 25 we are on now, and Dirk with the faster tyres, with 3 laps younger than, of course, Lawrence, who has decided to go by a different username today and almost slips. He's got 3 laps older tyres, 6 laps against 9 laps for SCI Dirk, and he'll be hoping that the tyre difference isn't too bad. I think at this point in the stint, it's also worth considering the fact that they would have seen what happened to Max, and I know I keep going back to it, but they will have started nursing those tyres. So Dirk is absolutely flying on his way up to catch Lawrence at the moment. It's 1.1 seconds. I'd expect that to be under a second by the time we reach the next DRS zone. Actually, it's going to be very close to whether it is going to be next DRS zone, and Dirk just outside of it, I think, as they reach the detection points. He'll have to go down the main straight, which will be even less of a problem.
Yeah, well, just seeing Tony have a little sniff up the inside of Volokongan, but nothing doing on this occasion. But it could be a little hurry up to Silo to realise that Tony is not one to really want to be, hanging around. Has a little look up the inside and has broken a bit later that time around of asking. And a little bit of a switchback opportunity was available for Tony, but decided better of it on this occasion. And they will stay in their respective positions for the time being. But Tony doesn't want to hang around in this one.
No, and I don't blame him as well. The overtaking opportunities will get tighter and tighter towards the end of this race, as we've seen a number of times in Console Tier 1. Drivers remember they're running a race and not just a time trial in the last couple of laps, and so action could just light up, and he wants to jump the gun a little bit, climb up, so he's the one defending rather than attacking, and Tony Arish at the moment 4/10 off the back of Volakongan, and well, he has pushed a little bit more than the other two in the fight, and I'm not counting David Bands in it because of course his penalty that is added to his name, but those top four are, or those top three even, are looking very, very strong. DRS is going to be open for two of the three of them. The one, of course, that doesn't have it is Silo, who's the race leader, but I don't think DRS is affecting too much here today, because for example, Volakongan's had DRS on Silo over the last few laps, and he's really struggled to make an indent on that gap.
Yeah, the ERS usage may make a difference in that, but it doesn't seem like it has. But it's a bit closer than it has been in the last few laps. 0.4 of a second between it. DRS open, but you're right. I think there may be a big dump of ERS, and the DRS just isn't working to the favours at the moment. A yellow flag for Finley, I believe, in Sector 2, as Kevin Sundberg and Fanna Spinoda swapping positions, and Fanna Spinoda picking up a penalty for multiple warnings. That's not ideal. There's an absolute gaggle of changing. What is going on down the start finish straight? This is crazy. It's 4 wide coming through turn 3 wide, sorry, as coming through there's a little bit of argy-bargy, and Quantum desperately trying to get position. Ziawadi getting involved, and so is Luca, and Quantum finally through. But my goodness me, that was a crazy little part of the track.
Certainly was, and it's the action that we've been begging for all the way through this game cycle so far. I think Saudi Arabia being a circuit where everyone pretty much has dirty errors, that's going to be Finley into the pit lane to retire from the session. I think Saudi, where everybody's in the same boat, everyone has dirty air, so nobody's really affected by it, has a huge part to play in this as well. So to the organisers of the race, of course, not many people would have said this. Thank you, Saudi Arabia. And then, of course, somebody of a persuasion of my own would not necessarily be the most willing to make that comment. But either way, lap 20 of 25, and Chris RBL looks like he may well have crashed out of the session. Unfortunate there for the Aston Martin, who drops down and becomes our 5th retirement, our first legitimate retirement of the session.
It's unfortunate for Chris RBL. Felt like they were doing quite good, really, like knocking on the door for points. But not an ideal one for them as we continue watching Silo, Volakongan and Tony fight away. Lawrence has been dispatched by Dirk, and Dirk is, well, cue the Jaws music, surely.
Yeah, you would imagine so. Dirk is it's almost inevitable he'll be able to catch and close, and just, all the sorts of things that he will be wanting to do in this race, and late on he could have a charge towards that race victory. It's looking very on at the moment for him, and that would be very, very good to see. But the championship leader, of course, will be extending his advantage at the very top of this field, which isn't necessarily the most exciting title fight that we've had so far. And of course, we've had some incredible title fights in Console Tier 1, and it looks like this season we may well just have a dominant one of SCI Dirk, but I mean, he's going to be made to work hard at least for this race victory.
Yeah, I think so as well. But you mentioned in the earlier on that it's very much a case of a race of attrition, and Dirk's just held it well in every race. He's not necessarily been the dominant force, but he's going to be shown as a dominant force because he's just been able to produce very well every race. But all of a sudden, David Bands is under incredible pressure, and there goes Dirk again. And fair play to Dirk, back up to the battle for the lead.
Yeah, Dirk right in the thick of things, and now ahead of David Bands, of course, in that 4th place, so it's all a contest towards the end of this race. Only a few laps to go then, and it's going to be SCI Dirk and SCI Silo and SCI Volakongan, and Tony Reich is there as well in the fight for the top 4 spots. And David Bands, of course, holding DRS, but penalty means that he will only affect this battle, not win it. Silo, 8/10 of a gap, held out over Volokongan. That's big at this point in the session. That's really big at this point in the session. And I think that might just be enough, you know, even with all of the DRS that he can be a beneficiary of. I think that 8/10 gap is going to be enough for Silo to go home and take this victory.
It's a good little time right now for Silo. Lawrence has absolutely dropped away from this, as has David Bands. They're dropping. Yellow flag for Fana Spinoda, who's doing the namesake of spinning, unfortunately for them. And, well, and there goes Lawrence with another penalty there. We've seen one puncture with Max van der Geest there, who's currently classified as 18th place. Are we... I know the cars are lighter. Silo, Volokongan's, the cars are lighter. They've got another couple of laps to go on those tyres. This is going to be close.
We're going to get a puncher. I don't know who's going to have the puncher. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope that Lawrence isn't about to leave the session, as he has just retired from it. But I mean, we could ultimately see a lot happen in the final few laps of this race, where the tyres will be around 80%, I would imagine, for a bunch of these drivers. And so they'll be hoping to keep it clean and you know, just avoid any sort of problems in the final couple of laps of this race session, which might mean that we rarely will see the action die down because they're just trying to nurse the tyres to the end. But Dirk will be wanting the opposite of that. He'll be wanting them to fight it out, hammer and tongs, for the final couple of laps of this race. And I think he's going to be left a begging, as he's going to have to be the one to drum up all of that fighting. And I really don't think that those tyres, they certainly had the legs early on in this stint. I don't think they've got the legs right now. Yeah,
Tony, even the difference between Tony and Dirk, the confidence as Dirk just clips the exit of turn 24, and the Jaws music is definitely probably being, well, over the radio, and up the inside on Tony Reich is Dirk, and that's a late lunge into turn 27. I feel maybe not necessary, but back into the slipstream of the Red Bull is the RBR, or the Kick Sauber, or whatever, not Kick Sauber, the Visa Cash App card, whatever you want to call it. But Tony manages to keep ahead at the moment. Lap 24 or 25, that could have been Dirk's chance for the victory out of the way. But I'm still thinking that was a very odd retirement from Lawrence, because Lawrence was in the points. It just felt premature to retire at that point.
Yeah, certainly did. It's unfortunate to see him go, but hopefully he's going to be back on Trophy Road at some point in this evening. Of course, he was the lobby host that we had for today, and I'm glad I don't have to have the opportunity to trip over his name anymore until we're reading out the final race results. Luca gets through on Quantum and on Schumacher even for the final points position, and that fight will continue on just a little bit longer as well. We will head towards the final couple of laps. Luca, is that a puncher on the Sauber? Yes, indeed it is. Luca has picked up he's picked up a puncher on the final couple of laps of this race, and that is going to spice things up and make some of those hard runners very nervous.
And that was only on 12 lap old tyres. Luca really punished those hard compounder tyres. Volokongan, Silo, Tony really have to be looking after those tyres, or otherwise we could see more. We could see absolutely more punctures through this one. Dirk has decided, well, maybe used all the ERS, maybe used everything, and doesn't want to do any
David's
more.
got a puncher. David's got a puncher. He's got a puncher on his left rear. And I mean, I said we were going to get punchers in this race. We certainly will, but a battle for the race lead is on right now. Silo and Volokongan bumping wheels through the first couple of corners onto the final lap of this race. And well, this is well and truly on.
It is indeed. And Volokongan has, well, he's won a championship on punctures. Well, not on punctures, but on drivers getting punctures around him in the championship. Austria, just season 20, not so long ago. Still fresh in the memory. So we all know how well Volokongan can hold out on tyres. Here they go through turns 13. It's unlucky for some. Is it going to be unlucky for any of those drivers? No. It's all good on the tyre front, and they're all looking okay at the moment. It's not long to go, Joseph. This This is really heating up in the final lap. Are we going to see any punctures?
This is it. Tyre drama always causes a stir in console tier 1. And Silo at the moment holds on with the oldest tyres on the grid. Volokong in second place. His tyres are knackered as well. And Nico Castronovo and Schumacher came in on the same lap. They'll be hoping that they don't have any problems. But David Bands, of course, had a puncture on only 12-lap-old hard compound of tyres. And that is absolutely huge. But the final corner is going to beckon. Nobody is going to pick up a puncture from these top few, and it's going to be a run down to the line. Might even be side by side across the line. DRS will be open for a couple of the drivers, and it's going to be Silo who does hold on to that race victory. Tony Riesch is going to come home in third place, just behind Volokongan, who picks up his first podium of the season, and in a strong performance for himself. And I believe did Sviade get a puncture of his own in the final lap. I believe he indeed did, and so he was the only driver to fall foul of it on the final lap. But drama, nerves for a lot of those drivers as they came across the line. And as we ended the race, it was going to be, of course, Silo taking the victory. And our championship leader, well, he's picked up fourth place, but it could have been so much better for him.
Yeah, it feels... I don't know what a race could have been, but maybe that the attack on lap 24, the exit of lap 23 into 24 could have been where it wasn't successful, let's say. Yeah. Anyway, done, dusted. What an interesting race, to say the least, through that. We're just waiting to see we are going to see we're going to see the podium interviews, which is the podium on here anyway. But well, while this is coming through, who do we think who do you think deserves driver of the day? Because it's a little bit all over the place.
It certainly is. It was all over the place on the race, but I mean, when you have a moment like this where you don't know who you're going to pick, you have a look at the grid and who was the biggest gainers, and Kevin Zunneberg gained from 14th to 6th place, so he did well. I think AMS Knight deserves a shout out as well, reserve driver of course, and he put up a very good performance of his own, 15th, gaining up all the way to 7th place at the end of that race. But and that of course came with a 3-second time penalty that lost him 1 position. But I mean, I think those two would be my prime contenders, but that's simply looking at the stats. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. Maybe Silo, just because they managed to make that work, or Nico Castro. It could be going for anyone from a stat point of view, but it was a good race nonetheless. Let's have a look at the standings, because we never really properly have a look at this. This is what it looked like before tonight. Dirk doesn't extend, but he didn't lose too many points over Silo, which, you know, it could have been worse.
Yeah, consistency is key, and if you can pick up, especially with the way that his season has gone, if you can pick up any form of points in all of the races, you're likely to be champion. With the fact that he's got a double over everybody else. He's got over a double. I'd imagine it's just dipped just under right now, but he was in a very, very strong position. So it's just about maintaining that consistency all the way to the end of this season, and he's done pretty well to get into the position that he's in so far, and I can't see it changing at least anytime soon, unless he doesn't show up to the last 5 races or bottles it.
Yeah, it could be, I suppose, any of those, but I doubt it. I think Dirk's the one definitely to watch, but Silo winning, that helps obviously the momentum swing towards their favour a little bit. And we look at next week's race, which is the Mexican Grand Prix, and that, well, it's a completely different circuit.
Yeah, Mexico. I mean, we've just gone to a circuit that's tight, twisty, 25 corners, and Mexico City, if you ignore Sector 2, barely has any corners. So it's a whole different dynamic. It's the longest run down to turn number 1 on the Formula 1 calendar, and so we'll be seeing drivers scrapping it out there around Mexico City next Friday out. And well, personally, I can't wait already. It's going to be a very, very good evening of racing. I'm a big fan of Mexico, and I'm a big fan of Console Tier 1, especially the drama that it served up tonight.
Yeah, the punctures helped massively as well. We can't forget that. Just changing things, and you do wonder, you feel for Max, because you wonder where Max would have been had they not had that puncture on their stint. So yeah, Mexico would mean that then we're halfway through the season. My goodness me, where is the time gone? It would be crazy, because well, it's 5 races in. Dirk's getting closer to putting one hand on the title, but Silo deciding, well, I want to be in this title fight. I think that's the main headline from today, isn't it?
I wouldn't be surprised if Dirk feels as though at least he's got a metaphorical hand on that title already, just because of the way that his season has started. And I mean, with the way that the results can be so very different, you can have one driver at the top one week who's absolutely nowhere the next week. That's just the way the cookie crumbles in Console Tier 1, and that's the way that sometimes it has indeed gone, where one driver can make a name for themselves at the start of the season, completely drop off, but he's made such a name for himself that I think it's going to be difficult, from this position at least, to find your way back into the pack. But of course, if he does, then it will be very much on. If Dirk does have a couple of poor races, opens up the door to the likes of Silo, who will, if, for example, if Dirk retires next race, Silo takes a race victory, it's tightened right back up, it's opened right back up, and it'll be Dirk without the momentum, it'll be Silo with the momentum, and then it's a whole different ball game.
Certainly will be, and there we go. Well, I think that's it for this evening. It's been a action-packed, technology packed as well, I guess you could call it. But yeah, not been the best on, well, my side, unfortunately, but everything else seemed to hold out. The racing was great, and we'll be back next week for the Mexican Grand Prix, and I'm sure that is going to be absolutely insane. So please do come back and watch us for that one, and all the other action that is on WR will be on across the YouTube and Twitch channels. It'll be great to have you on board. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.